Hi, everybody, and welcome along to Meet Your Trading Experts live and free for today, the 19th of March, 2021. It is great to have your company today, and I am thrilled and excited to have my special guest today, Julian McCree. Julian, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hey, Paul, how are we doing? Let me just grab my screen and you start a video here as well too. How is everybody?
Mate, I'm sure everybody like me is excited to have how you going, mate? Welcome along. Midnight in New Zealand, a bit of a later start than usual for this kind of thing for you.
Is it midnight? I hadn't noticed, Paul. I've been concentrating on trading systems for the whole of the last 4 hours, so that's rushed by. So midnight it is. I'll accept your word for that. And mate, apparently we still have the America's Cup. We haven't lost it yet,
mate. I'll tell you what, it was a good old series. So we do have the America's Cup, and one of the things I quite like, I do this show at midnight New Zealand every week on a Thursday night, and I have just been pulling our Wave Rider strategy to pieces and rewriting it. So we're in the middle of that. It's about probably about a 200 to 300 hour project, and we'll be relaunching the Wave Rider in Easter Saturday, and we have got some cool stuff coming on that. So it is nice these late nights. You just get to wander away on strategy and look at this kind of stuff, and it does give you some time to get into it. Mate, we're here today to talk about mentoring and about the different approaches for mentoring different groups, and what's worked for you over the years, what you think is really important for different groups of traders. And I think before we get into that, I'd just like to ask you a little bit about how you started. Now, I like to think of myself these days as a bit of a veteran trader. I've been around now for about 10 or 12 years. And look, when I met you, I was completely new. You were a veteran trader.
I was actually referred to in a newspaper article yesterday as a veteran trader. And I turned around to my son and said, "Is it better to be a veteran trader or to be just an old trader?" So I said, "I think I'll take the veteran."
Yeah, I think veteran is okay, mate. Veteran is a good thing. So, mate, when did you start trading, and what got you into it? Because I have a feeling back when you started trading that there weren't trading schools all over the place teaching people how to trade. This was a pretty unusual thing to be getting into.
No, you're right, Paul. There were these things, right? It's called a book. Not many of these around anymore. Most of them are electronic these days, and that's how I learned to trade. So I look, my career, just give everybody a quick brief synopsis of this. It's split into 3 bits, right? I was a investment banker for about 10 years, learning to try and manage my way and navigate my way through the markets. And I was a fund manager and working in hedge funds and family offices, portfolio manager for about 15 years after that. And then I found the electricity market in New Zealand, and I learned what volatility is. And if you think it's crazy in Bitcoin, then you haven't seen anything yet. You want to try looking at electricity. So, yeah, it's been an interesting 3 bits to my career.
Take me back, mate. So we've had 10 years at the start as, what did you call yourself, a merchant banker?
I was an investment banker, Paul. In fact, I didn't call myself anything. In fact, to anybody who asked, I did something in finance, and I refused to tell them what I did, because in those days, investment bankers were about as popular as real estate agents.
Mate, what does an investment banker do?
They spend a lot of time at work, and in fact, most of their life at work. Sometimes you even sleep in the office, trying to make a little bit of coin for the organization you work for.
And how are you making the coin as an investment banker? What do you actually do? How do you make this? How do you make the money for them?
Yeah, look, great question. So my job was to trade government bonds and corporate bonds. So a little bit of retail, you do a bit of buying and selling with customers, as both sides of the bid offer spread. But a lot of what I did was trying to make money out of the direction that interest rates were going, and not just those ones at the very front end that we use for our mortgage, but actually the ones out to 10 and even 30 years in some cases.
Great. So you were in the interest rate market, and generally for us normal people, we're looking at 0 to 5 years as a term for interest rates. You were looking at some of the longer stuff, and you were looking to create an advantage of buying interest rates buying into this markets at the right time before the interest rates went out, and then jumping back out and selling this to somebody else.
Absolutely right. Yeah.
That for 10 years. Who do you do that for? Do you do that for Pete Jones Trading? Who do you do that for?
Not quite. So my career was split into two bits. So quite a bit of time spent with HSBC, and most of the 10 years spent with a very small bank called Citibank. You may have heard of it around the place, or Citicorp, I think they call themselves these days. So yeah, look, it was a great experience, and I think what the key thing for me was that I learned how to do it. And I learned how to trade. So to be honest with you, my first trading experience was nothing to do with a bank. My first trading experience was making money out of trading war comics when I was about 14 years old. They were a thing in those days. And I would bring them, I would buy the new editions for the news agents on the way to my school. A few of the guys used to board there, and I sell them for double the price. That was a real bit off a spread rather than the ones we have to deal with these days. But yeah, so that's if you like, where I got my trading bug from, and just carried that all the way through most of my career. A little bit more profitable than trading magazines.
Yeah, Martin. Imagine, I was going to ask you at one stage. I'll ask this later on. How much money you think you've traded in your life? That'd be fascinating. But let me see. Right, so you've gone from trading war comics to getting an opportunity working at one of the banks.
Yep.
What's the transition? How do you get into a bank in those days as a trader?
I was on an intern program, and I told them that I had a trading business.
Was that true?
More or less. The key thing is that you have a huge amount of enthusiasm, and you know what buy and sell means. And I was fortunate enough to do that, and it was a little micro business, as we call them these days. But it made a little bit of money, and that was to them, that was really interesting, because it meant I had a bit of a interest, if you like, in starting out. And to be honest with you, look, this is when you ask people about this business, there's a lot of people who don't technically start out in foreign exchange. They may start their education in foreign exchange, but they've got a little bit of a thing going on the side over something or other. So look. In the world of whatever works, that's how I started my career. And I think it's really important to bear in mind that people don't get how much information they have these days. I am staggered by what you can even see on YouTube. Paul, we're running almost not quite a 24/7 TV channel, but you're pretty close to it. It's about 10 hours a day of a TV channel, and that's an amazing amount of content. Now imagine not having any of that, not having YouTube, not having the internet. Did not have something called the internet. We had something called email, but that we were very early in the bank with that. And I learned all of my stuff with books, and I had a monochrome screen which had the quotes on some of the futures markets in America that were live streamed. They call it live streaming in those days, or live real time, whatever they called it, I can't remember. And that would come through. It was a real innovation. There was only one of them on the entire desk, and it happened to be sitting next to me. And that's how I got involved in the markets. And that was the beginning of electronic trading, not just for London, but how it worked through Europe, and it expanded from there, and it's been going crazy ever since. And to answer your question, the answer is billions of dollars.
Yeah, I thought it'd be fascinating. I mean, even how much you made over the years would be fascinating. Look, let me back up a couple of things. First of all, for people who are watching this, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're watching this on Facebook, if you're watching the Zoom, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the questions box. If they're questions pertaining to this interview, I'll try and slide them into the interview. If they're questions about non-fungible tokens, I'll probably just hold on to the end of this interview and see if we can get some time for that at the end, for some more general stuff, as opposed to stuff for the interview. So if you want to ask some questions, if you're on YouTube, just type them in. Facebook, just type them in, a staff member will put them in the chat with us, and we will answer them for you. So Julian, you started off, you bought some war comics, you sold them to your mates for twice the money. You got in, you started a little trading business, made a little bit of money. You also came with an economics background, right? You do have an initial economics background, right?
Yes, I do. I always laugh about it, right? So I did business, finance, and economics at university. I have to be really careful here. I viewed it as 4 years of drinking huge amounts of alcohol and chasing girls and playing some golf at the same time. And in there somewhere was some academic work. And I think that The key thing for me about that experience was the internships I got, because that was my big break in terms of finding my way into the investment bank. So, look, the economics is a really interesting space. It has a relevance to markets all the time. I can't describe how relevant and important it is, but only at a very high level. So, there's I don't use it for my trading day to day. But what I do use is for a sense of confidence that it gives me to put trades on.
Cheers, mate. So your economics macro, right? You're a macro guy, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Mate, got a bunch of questions piling. I'm going to ask a few of these.
I'm watching them.
Before we do move on. Look, it's great to see them, and guys, I encourage you, please keep the questions coming. As I say, if they're relevant to stuff we're talking about, I'll try and push them in. But one of the great things about this session, the show now, there's no time limit. We'll get through this till we get to the end. We've got some great stuff to share with you. We've got some great prizes to give away tonight as well. It's going to be a great show. I want to come back and talk to Julian about having moved on to the next 15 years of his trading life and what he did there. I think it's really important for you guys to understand. This is a guy that worked for Citibank. This is the guy that's been doing this for now nearly 30 years now. I think that kind of stuff's important. Where's your alma mater from Crystal, Julian?
So it's a small university in London called, I think it's still called Brunel University, but they keep changing their name these days. So somewhere out there in West London, and not anywhere particular famous, but it had an amazing course program. So I spent 3 different internships while I was there out in the real world, which was amazing.
Mate, was the long hours in IB worth it, or would you rather do personal banking?
Always worth it. You're in with the big guys.
You learn a lot in that kind of space, right, Julian?
Of course you do, because it's a high pressure job, right? It wasn't you weren't playing at this, right? It was quite serious stuff. I was a market maker in German government bonds. I was the only guy on the European desk who did that. That was a pretty big job, and you get called up and people are asking you for bids and offers in sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars or euros or ecus in those days, and there was a lot happening. So it was a pretty serious time, right? And to give you some idea, I get to work at my morning meeting started at 7 in the morning, but I'd be in the office at 6:30, and rarely did I ever go home before 6 in the evening.
Mate, the continuation of that question, is it tough to trade personally compared to working in a bank for you?
No, it's much easier to trade personally because it's your own money.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? That there is a different psychology, isn't there? Yeah, I'm pleased you bought a new headset for this show, Julian. You're in New Zealand now. We might be able to win the America's Cup, but technology is not our thing. It really isn't.
Oh my God, it'd be really funny. I need some. I have a droopy mic, everybody. So for those of you that are listening in rather than watching this, I'm struggling with my microphone and trying to keep a straight face while we're doing it.
Julian, what has been your long-term and consistently profitable markets and trades?
Oh, great question. They vary, actually. I think that I have over the years traded the bond markets very well when they were one of the key drivers for the world, and that's beginning to happen again now. The short-term interest rate market, I was quite active in that and reasonably successful in that around the turn of the century, and probably all the way through from about 95 all the way through. To be honest with you, I've traded foreign exchange for years and years and years. And some stocks and stock market indices from time to time. And actually, I've just started trading Bitcoin. So, it varies, and I'll, my thoughts are, my methodology works wherever I go. So I just flip around to where the volatility is.
I'm going to go off script a little bit here. So it's really interesting, Julian. I think that, you've been trading for, and I think it's now roughly 30 years, right? 25 years before you got to New Zealand, 5 or 6 years in the energy sector in New Zealand. And my understanding is you're talking about, if it's 30 years, 29 years profitable, 1 year break even is kind of the record, right?
Yeah, I think I had one break even year. That was back in 2000.
Okay. So what's your methodology? Your methodology works, and it's worked across a number of different markets.
Yep.
And again, I I guess there's some parts of this that I kind of know about what we did in the electricity industry that I don't really want to say on YouTube because I'm not quite sure what parts of things you're allowed to share. But what is your methodology? What gives you an edge?
Yeah, look, people ask me this all the time, and honestly, the edge I think that anybody has in trading comes from all sorts of different areas. So am I going to answer the question? Yeah, look, there's one or two methodologies that I use, really simple pattern recognition techniques. So, you know, my edge is that I'm a conditional trader. Okay, so I don't just look at a market with some bars and a couple of trend lines and, you know, an indicator or two and go, oh, okay, all right, it's going to do this next. What I do is I like to try and back it up with something. Okay, so I like to feel comfortable that I've got some kind of reinforcement. So that can be anything from the time of year, the time of the week, the time of the month. Or it can be a fundamental piece of information. You know, look, there was a Fed move overnight, right? And I was busy and actively trading gold and silver this morning. So that is you know, a fundamental piece of information that was driving it. So for me, I like to think of myself as a conditional trader, and that's how I do it. I need more information than just the charts.
Cool. So charts plus, there's something on top of that helps for you, and these include things like seasonality. There's something you do a lot about failures. You like to trade market failures when markets don't go in an area. I trade reversals of that. Okay, look, a couple more questions coming in here. I'm going to do the questions before we get on to some of the other stuff. I do want to talk to you a little bit about your record. We've got the record from your broadcast script to have a look at as well, but I'd like to have a bit of a chat with you a bit more about your record. So you are Paul's mentor, and let's not forget Ainsley's mentor. Who was your mentor, Julian?
Oh, that's a really great question. So my first mentor was a lovely lady called Malou who still lives in Luxembourg. She was actually managed, I think she got to be the mayor of her region as well too in Luxembourg. So a really lovely lady, and she taught me heaps and probably was the most aggressive and not because she was a lady, because that the world doesn't, you know, I never cared about that and neither did the world, but she was one of the most aggressive traders I've ever met. And actually, to be honest with you, I think when I look through my career, the people that stand out in my mind are there's two or three individuals that stand out in my mind. There was a guy called Steve. I'm not going to use their surnames because I think they're all retired now. But there's a guy called Steve who was simply an amazing trader. When it came to trading price action, he was just simply awesome. And one of the great mentors I had was one of my bosses when I worked in a family office, who traded his own account and had us trade some of his money as well too. And he came at it from a different direction. You know, he was an options trader, and we didn't have a huge amount in common because I wasn't trading many options in those days. But the one thing we did have in common was that he had a great attitude towards risk. And he taught me how to manage risk effectively and how to have confidence that when you're doing something, that you've got to just press forward with it. And providing you know what your parameters of win-loss ratios are, and there's a little bit of science behind it, when things start to go wrong, you just wait. And then they even know when things are going wrong, there's actually times when they're going wrong that you can actually double up on the position because the market, your results are so overstretched, they're going to bounce back, which is another way of saying he's had tremendous vote of confidence in the people that worked for him. And look, that for me, I think was really important. When I look at also the people who I listen to, right, and that's probably more important for some of your listeners and viewers as well too. People I listened to over the years, I have a huge amount of time for Jake Bernstein. I have a lot of time for Larry Williams. They're both, I'm calling them like institutions in America in the private trading space. They are educators to some extent, but the methodology that Larry has used hasn't really changed. I don't think over the last 30 or 40 years. I've met Larry a few times. He's an absolutely great guy, really nice guy, but gee whiz, he's intense, right? He loves his trading. And Jake Bernstein's another one. He's as a private trader to get up at 5 o'clock every morning on the west coast of America and start trading. You've got to be pretty dedicated to that. And so huge amount of time for the way these guys manage themselves and manage their methods. And I've used some of their techniques, but I also like to think I've blended in some of my own stuff in there as well too.
Yeah, and when you talk about getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, you're not talking about for 3 weeks or 3 years. He's been doing that for a bloody long time, right?
Absolutely.
And it's one thing I really like, Julian, is that when I talk to you about trading, I hear the same names. And these are the people you're talking about today, are the people you were talking about 10 years ago, and you've found the people that you believe in and you've stuck with them. And I don't all of a sudden hear about 5 new guys you're following. I know that there's a few more modern things you do follow, but largely you've found your guys and stayed with your guys, right? You've found your method, you've stayed with your methodology, and just become better and better at using it, right?
Look, I think that's an incredibly important point, Paul. So 2 things, right, about mentorship and about methodologies, right? So number 1, if it's you, right, you will have a particular way of trading. Now, whoever you may happen to be out there, you may be somebody who's you'll know the type, and you've met those people who are quite intense and quite highly strung. Well, that would probably fit in the short-term trading camp, wouldn't it? You wouldn't expect somebody like that to take a position for a year. And then the people who are laid back, right? Nothing bothers them. It just sit there and just let everything wash over them. Well, they'd be the guys who are probably, or girls who will probably take the positions for slightly longer term. Not always, but this is the general thing. So I sort of fit in the middle. Most of my positions last anything between a day and about 2 weeks. I don't normally tend to hold much over that. That's my space. Look, if you're a commodity trader, holding something for longer than a week gets you too twitchy anyway. But if you're trading in the finance field, or you're and you're looking at shares or something like that, then a couple of weeks is quite a reasonable holding period. So, again, it varies a little bit. But what I do with all of these things is I try and find a methodology that fits with me, right? So I'm really, really sensitive to adding new things, right? I take it incredibly slow. And the reason why I take it really slow when I'm trying to add either a new market or a new method, or try and make what I do a little better, is because I don't want to change it. And therefore, and I know why I don't want to change it, because it sort of works for me. And so I don't want to add something that's gonna not put my chi out, which is important, right? But is actually not really what my character wants to do. You can't try and sit down with me and say, "Hey, Julian, you're going to be long on the Nikkei for 3 months, and you're going to enjoy that." What I'll do is I'll look at it every single day and go, "Why the hell am I holding this?" So
I've got a question on that, Julian. So one of the things that I find really difficult, I listen to a few podcasts, but I basically don't read trading books anymore. And I don't read trading books because every time I read a trading book, I think, well, that's amazing. I've got to do that. And that's my trading ruined for 6 months. And they're like, oh, actually, I can't do that. I'm going back to what I used to do,
Yeah, look, it's a really fair point. I think for me, where I'm with this is that what I do when I'm reading a trading book these days, and I'm with you, Paul, I don't tend to read that many these days. In fact, I don't tend to read many books or watch too many YouTube videos about how to trade these days. But where I do, and when I do, it's to only with people who I know is going to add some value to me. And so I do, if you like, a bio of that individual first. But there's so many different things that you can learn about trading. We talk about, I've got a trading style, right? Well, that's just only one part of the trading journey. The trading style, the whole trading journey is split into 3 bits, right? There's the market setup. So trying to find the thing that's fashionable, the market that'll make you, give you the opportunity to trade. Now, however that may be, it may be a market that's trending. It may be a market that's range trading. If you're into your range trading and you don't like trading trending markets, there's a lot of people that are uncomfortable with trending markets. So, because of that, there's you have to get those markets identified first, right? Whatever you do, you've got to identify them. Okay, then you have your methodology you apply to it, right? So all you're really doing is sort of saying, well, I'm going to buy and sell it anyway. All I'm doing now is trying to look for exact point to do it that's risk controlled, right? And then finally, there's your third part of all of this, right? Which is how you manage the account. And how you manage those trades. So when you've got a trade on, what's your stop loss? How do you take profits? How's that going to work? What's that going to look like? What sort of trading methodology do you have results wise that enables you to use 1, 2, or 3 units for each trade and, scale in, scale out? What's the right way? How do I pyramid this? How many trades should I have on this trend I've got in, say, the euro Euro USD, I might have 5 positions. Why do I have 5 positions? Or because I've got 5 different buy signals because it's going up. Oh shit, well, how do I manage that? Because do I want to keep all of those? Should I get out of it? Look at the risk I'm taking at the top, right? Now, all of those decisions are nothing to do with your methodology and everything to do with how you're managing both the trade and how you're managing your account. Now, if I had my time again, in all seriousness, if I had my time again and they said, Julian, how do you want to start this? It would be just, I use the analogy of golf for this, Paul. When you go to the driving range, all you do is you see people hitting driver all the time. They reach for the biggest club they've got and they whack it out of sight. Because
if they hit the back net, can I hit the back boundary? Can I hit the back boundary? Because hitting the back boundary is something that's not actually part of golf, is it? There's not a back boundary in golf, is there? It doesn't actually matter, right?
No, it doesn't. What matters in golf is how much you score.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you look at you break down golf as a sport, half of it, almost 3/4 of it, to be honest with you, is played within 100 meters of the green. Well, you don't need to be you can do that when you're 85 years old. You don't need to be physically amazing. You don't need to be Bryce DeChambeau or Tiger Woods or anything like that. You don't need that. Right. So what you need to do is to recognize how you win at the sport first. How do you score well at the sport? And in trading, it's identical. Right. So what's the end game? Right. And this is something I often pose to the students. I said, what is your end game here? Are you trying to have a perfect trading methodology, or do you want to make money?
Yeah, look, I think that's such an important thing, isn't it? And look, people just can't help but get dragged into this search for perfection. And again, look, I'll take being the least perfect trader in the world with money in the bank. That's what I'm about. And I guess that's part of when you do this for longer and you realize that that's really the only way you can stay in this for a long period of time is if you can do that. So I really like that. Look, you talked about students. So I'm going to get to talking to you about, different approaches for different people reasonably soon. I'm keen to talk about what you're doing as inside Actions to Wealth with teaching the trading team and teaching the clients. There's some new projects coming up there. But a couple of things before that. Still want to go through a couple more questions. And guys, we're getting lots of questions. I do need to keep a bit of an eye on the clock. I'll get a telling off from Julian's wife if I keep here all night tonight. A couple of crypto questions. Are you trading cryptos now? Volatility experience useful?
Yes, I am trading cryptos. I trade the majors, so Ethereum and Bitcoin. I haven't got too involved in any of the smaller ones. That isn't really, to be honest with you, I think I could, but it's not really my style. My style is much more based on really liquid markets, and those are the ones that I enjoy doing. And crypto is about as liquid as they get out there at the moment. So my attention is drawn to it quite naturally, and has been for a little bit of time. But it takes me a little bit of time to get used to it, right? I've actually been watching it now for about 3 months before I've actually got comfortable with placing trades. And I think I've got a few trades on now. I don't think I've had a loser yet, to be honest with you. So that's it does everything it should do, and in fact it trades a certain number of day patterns like the sentiment cycle tremendously well. And it trades exactly the same as any other market in the world, which is exactly what it should do when it comes to something like the sentiment cycle, because after all, it's run by human beings, right? The flows are identical. So that's where I'm with crypto.
I really like that, Julian. One of the things that I've said a few times recently, I want to say it again, right, is that in my mind, there's 2 ways to get involved with crypto. If you are just a trader and you just want to stay on the surface, then just trade Bitcoin. If you want to do Ethereum, maybe you can get into that as well. If you've got the time, if you want to be shukri and you want to live it, then go down to the altcoins and go down and do your research and find these amazing deals. But don't pretend at that. If you're going to go looking for new coin offerings and ICOs and IDOs and all of this kind of stuff, you've got to live it. You've got to live it like Julian lived when he went to the bank. You've got to be in this all the time. And if you can do that, then go and find that stuff, or have Shukri find that stuff for you. And if you can't, then just trade Bitcoin. It's where the volume is. It's where the safety is. You're not getting pumped and dumped in Bitcoin to the same degree you can on the smaller stuff. So for mine, Bitcoin is where the part-time crypto people, the traders trade. And down in that smaller stuff is where the guys who live it trade as a sort of place to be. I'm also enjoying a bit of Bitcoin success at the moment. Any chance you can train us on crypto? We've had Shukri in here 3 of the last 4 weeks. We've got a few people asking about crypto. Any chance you can train us on crypto trading, please? I'm not talking about crypto investing, more like day trading. Look, can I talk a little bit about what you are going to be doing for the next few weeks, Julian?
That sounds like a cue.
Yeah, look, so Julian's role, he'll be running the Trader Cafe for us every second week. He's doing one on this Sunday, the 21st. We're having Lloyd back on the Trader Cafe. We sort of mucked that up last week, so we're doing it again. And then we're back in rotation. And from the 28th, every second weekend, he'll be doing the Trader Cafe. On the 4th of April, he's doing a session with the trading team for Actions to Wealth and Online Trading Profits. And this 4-week rotation will continue. But on the 18th, Julian will be doing a graduate session for Actions to Wealth and Online Trading Profit people. So if you're on the database for Actions to Wealth and Online Trading Profit, you will get a chance to spend some time with Julian talking about markets in general. How do you feel about crypto? Are we going to be doing some crypto in there, Julian, or are we going to be keeping it more in forex for that stuff?
No. It's opportunities with all of those things are going to be any market that's working at the moment or that's giving us some reasonable signals. So look, that could be the S&P 500. It could be the FTSE. It could be oil, gold. It could be foreign exchange. It could be crypto. I think look, the questions I often get asked is where the hell do I go? There must be 200,000 markets in the world when you try and add them all up. And things that are quoted. So I call it my Super 6, which I think is going to have to go to, am I allowed to say this now on YouTube? Can I say the Sexy 7? Is that possible now?
I think you can say that. I wouldn't, I think the 67 you can do. We'll go from the Super 6 to the 67.
I always worry these days. So I'll probably call it the Super 7.
Look, as long as we let Jeff on YouTube, I think you've got very little to worry about. As long as we let Jeff go on YouTube, you're pretty safe. I've had 3 different emails from YouTube in the last sort of 6 months saying, can we stop playing other people's music, please? I do send them off to Jeff and I saying, guys, could we stop playing other people's music in your show, please?
Yeah. So look, out of those, let's go through those 7 markets, right? You want to find the things that you got to follow every single day. Then here's a good place to start, right? So you need to look at dollar yen. And why do you need to look at dollar yen? Because it's a major currency pair between Asia and America, and that sort of makes sense. Trade flows, financial flows, that makes sense, right? As does the euro USD, right? You want to follow that one too for exactly the same reasons. Okay. Then we're going to go a little bit further afield, right? Let's think about a commodities. Well, on the commodity space, which are the 2 ones which are really cool and timeless, right? The first one is oil. No surprises why we follow the oil market. And the next one is gold. And again, no surprises really why we follow gold. Then you'd look at the S&P 500 because yet again, it's the most amazing stock market index in the world. And it's the, if you like, the center of the universe for stock indices, and obviously clearly you've got to look at that. The granddaddy of them all, and the most important one to me, not just because of my legacy for what I've done in my trading career, but because it simply determines everything else, is the 30-year US Treasury bond yield, right? You need to look at that. You need to understand what's going on there because that drives everything. Okay, literally it drives every single relationship in the financial markets that's out there. And then finally, there's your 6. So finally, I would now add in Bitcoin into that. And the reason why I'm adding it in is because Bitcoin to me isn't necessarily a financial asset. Yeah, sure, there's lots of so-called cross rates against Bitcoin, but it's just an incredibly important gauge about where the faith in the markets is at the moment and where people are thinking emotionally and sentiment wise. So for me, it's an incredibly important instrument to follow because I feel as Bitcoin goes up, people feel comfortable taking on risk. As Bitcoin goes down, I think the opposite happens. And so as a result of that, I've got to follow it.
So your 67, apart from anything else, gives you a really good look at what's happening on the US dollar every day.
100%.
Cool. And really, the US dollar also tells us a lot about sentiment in the market, right? It is, after all, the major currency in the world right now.
Sure. And it will be for a very long time.
Cool. Look, one thing I'd like to do, perhaps I'd like to talk a little bit about the 15 years. We've been an investment banker, 15 years, family offices, those kind of things. That was largely in London, right?
Yeah, look, I only came to New Zealand 2011. So about 10 years ago now. And
wow.
I know Crazy April.
Yeah.
We've known each other some time, right? And I sort of fell into trading the power markets, which are and the emission markets, the CO2 markets in New Zealand, which is has become my one of my loves as well too, because they're amazing markets, and they have totally different non-diversified fundamentals compared to everything else, or diversified fundamentals, right? When you're looking at the electricity market in New Zealand, you're worrying about the weather forecast. I'm not sure there's many other financial markets in the world that spend their entire time looking at the weather forecast. We paid a lot of money for weathermen. And equally in the emission markets as well too, what's that determined by? It's mostly by government policy, and I guess the extent to which that is or isn't working worldwide, which determines vaguely where the price is going, right? Because it's it's an incentive to stop burning stuff.
Yep. Well, I think we've covered this a little bit, but I was going to ask you, when you look at a market, what kind of lens do you look at it from? And I think you've answered this right there. When you look at a market, it's charts plus. Charts on their own don't get you anywhere, but charts plus a fundamental, charts plus a seasonal, these things start and get you involved in markets, right?
Always. And look, I think let's just look at the seasonal pattern, right? I don't know. Let's take oil, right? Why is oil up at the moment? Well, funny enough, the seasonal pattern starts in late December, early January. It has its most intense moment during February. Well, let's go look at what the oil market's done over the course of the last 3 months. And yet again, it has absolutely nailed the seasonal pattern. And that continues through in oil till about April. And then there's a seasonal bearish time in oil that starts about October. So, when you know the basis for these things, right, doesn't that give you a little bit of confidence to be more aggressive about a position? You see a breakout in oil from I think it was about the $56, $57 mark as it started to run up towards the 70 area, something like that. I think I'm getting my numbers vaguely right.
Yes, you are. Yeah.
Then
depends on WTI, or Brent, but yes, your numbers are good. Yep.
Yeah. Then when you're looking at those type of things, then you say, okay, well, I'm sitting on my seasonal sweet spot. What decision am I going to take here? Well, I'm not going to sell it, right? Oh, look, it's broken out. Oh, well, what's the decision here then? Well, it doesn't take you too long to figure out that actually you should be long. The question is, how long do you want to be, and what's your stop loss going to be? Because quite frankly, the thing is trying to go up anyway at this time of year. So no surprise, it's spot in line with the seasonal. Go look at the stock markets in Q4 of last year, right? Spot in line with seasonals. Go look at the move in Bitcoin that we've seen over the course of the last 3 months. Okay, they've tracked pretty much their seasonal or cyclical pattern. I won't get into too much detail, but Bitcoin has a 40-day and a 20-day cycles, so they're really quite important about how they work, and they've been tracking pretty well for the last few months. So when you look at things like that, you go, okay, well here's my bias, right? And whenever you're thinking about a trade, and here's the key thing, right? I can sit there and I can say, hey, I've got a false breakout that's triggered here, and I know that my percentage of winning on that trade is, say, 65%, right? So I know that 65% of the time I'm going to make money out of those false breakouts, and 35% I'm going to get whacked, right? Okay, well, that's really interesting. So then you say, well, what happens on that false breakout that becomes a bullish move if it's in line with a bullish seasonal? Well, I can tell you right now, it's higher than 65%, right? You start to get towards the 70s and 75%. Well, 5% movement, right, with the same reward to risk at that sort of percent success level, changes dynamics ridiculously, right? Guys, if you've got a spreadsheet, go stick it in and see what that does to a paper traded account, right? And just see what happens. Okay, it's incredibly important.
So while we're talking about 60% success rate, so we have a little bit of a look at a success rate. Hanan, my understanding is you are, but if you can drop James a message in the morning, he'll sort that out for you. Look, you're talking about a 60% success rate, and I want to talk about that oil trade in a minute. But before we do, why don't we jump into and have a little bit of a look at a track record and see what a track record can look like. I'm going to share that and see if I can go from there by the look of it. It's not quite what I was hoping for. There we go. So this is your broadcast group record from the day we started until today. And look, you can see in 2019, your win rate was 59%. In 2020, it was 60%. And so far in 2021, it's 68%. And look, no question, profit and loss pips is 1334 for 2021. Well, we're in March, and if you times that by 4, you get what we're on target for. About 5,000 pips this year would be the go. And here's the all-time record for Julian's broadcast group. And look, you can see, December the minus 17 pips. It was 65 in January the year before. The last time Julian lost more than 100 pips in a month was August 2019, and he's made more than 100 pips in every winning month apart from one since. Pretty cool. 8,296 pips on the record. Now, one of the traders puts this together for us and calculates all this stuff and keeps a record of everything. We've got all the 2021 trade calls and the various records here, 2020, 2019, everything going back. This is all time. This is 2021. Mate, really until March, that winning record for this year was even higher, and we're only we're only around the middle of March at this stage. I imagine that number will go back up, mate. So this thing around getting around a 60% success rate is hugely important for traders, right? If you can get there, really life's pretty simple, right?
Yeah, look, I think it's there's two aspects of that which I think are quite interesting. Number one is when you look down the drawdown months, there aren't many. Number two is, think about it, guys and girls, if you're listening out there, think about it another way and say, right, what am I doing here? Right. Okay. So I don't have many months where I lose money. Most of the time I'm making money, right? Then the question is, okay, how can I improve? And there's always ways to improve. Some of these times are when foreign exchange was really, really quiet. Some of the times when foreign exchange is really, really busy. And there are people walking around saying you can't trade foreign exchange at the moment because it's impossible. Well, you can see from this that that's not the case, right? And there's plenty of trends out there. You just got to go find them. And I mostly trade the majors in foreign exchange without looking at some of the more exotic crosses, which this year have gone completely nuts, right? So there's a lot of opportunities in those markets. And then if you think about adding in gold and Bitcoin and some oil as well too out there, there's heaps of stuff to do, right? And the key thing is with this is a 3-year effort, right, where we've had quite a few months with very little drawdown at all. And that's, if you're looking at how you could scale a business, right, that's the sort of profile that you'd be looking for. And you go, well, look, this is interesting. So if I started trading $10,000 in the January of 2019, how much could I really scale this by to take advantage of the fact that this seems to be a relatively consistent type of track, right? And I'm not talking about whether it's mine or not. This would relate to anybody. Sure, there's going to be times when you're going to make heaps, and that's brilliant. But the most important thing is when things go wrong, you're not losing a lot, right? So if you think about it that way, then you can. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that if you could change those success rates by 5 or 6%. You probably do away with all those losing months or most of them, and you probably also just boost some of the profitable ones a little bit more. But the key thing about it is it then makes it very, very easy to add risk aggressively.
Mate, it's a pretty cool record, right? And look, we've got the stuff here. In reality, we're pretty conservative. We value your gold at 10 cents per pip instead of $1 a pip. If we valued your gold at $1 a pip, the result would be off the thing. Because to be honest, I think you're the most consistent gold trader. Your record in gold is astronomical. Not the big smashing months that Ainsley has, which are just unmatchable, but your ability to make money off gold most times you trade it. Your gold record on its own would be quite amazing to have a look at. How about this, Julian? How about we give away a couple of these? How about we let a couple of guys have a crack at this for a month? Follow your trades.
Oh, look, that sounds a great idea. Let's do it.
Mike, can you put the link in? What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the first 6 people that ask for this. If you apply, you can have 1 month free of Julian's trade calls. Now this is I will put the links into the different areas, and if you're one of the first 6 people to click, you will have a 1 month trial. You'll be able to follow Julian's trades coming out live. This success rate up here around 60 to 70% per month. You will be able to jump in and take advantage of that. After that, you'll have the choice of cancelling. And if you cancel, obviously you're welcome to cancel. That's up to you. When you cancel, you'll lose access. And if you continue on, you will need to pay the standard fee for this. Got a couple of questions coming. I'm going to have a quick look at those before we move along. But if you do want to have a chance to join last few months, 500 pips, 350 pips, 400 pips. You've certainly spent just a little bit more time on this at the start of this year, right?
Yeah, I have been focusing a little. So the first 2 months I spent a bit of time in South Island on a bit of a break. But now I'm starting to apply myself a little bit more and spending a bit more time doing this during the spare time I have around the place.
We're looking for Julian's exclusive Telegram broadcast channel to be is the link that I'm looking for you to post, please. Do you have that one ready to go, Mai?
In the meantime, I'll answer Jirez's question. I don't have an opinion about the Nasdaq and the S&P or Asian stocks for that matter. What I do is I trade what I see, and I trade what I see in line with the conditions that I have at the particular time. So my answer to those things would be, if it's a seasonally bullish time for the Nasdaq and the S&P, I'd probably be playing it from the long side. If it's a seasonally bearish time, I'll be playing it from the short side. So bear in mind that, yeah, okay, we can all say if there's a big break in the S&P, if there's a big break in the Nasdaq or in the Asian stocks, who knows where anything might come from, then clearly people will be telling us that maybe that was the top of what has been a pretty incredible run for the last 7 or 8 years, and most notably for 2020. Right. So, who knows where we're at. I think the hardest thing, right, is to get yourself away from being hung up on what is going to happen next and focus on what you're going to do next.
Mate, I'm going to drag you back into topic here for a little while. We will do as many questions as we can at the end. I'm conscious that our hour is rapidly disappearing. We've got a prize draw to do yet. We've got a couple of other offers I'd like to give away. Look, for the first 6 people to click on that link, you've got to take the monthly option, and you'll get the first month free, and you can then choose to stay if you choose to stay. You've seen the record for Julian's broadcast group. Mate, I think one of the things that we're really interested here in this conversation for mine was that when I met you, you were working for the Society of Clinical Analysis in the UK as an educator, as well as working for a fund in London. You've worked for the banks, you've worked for the family offices, you've worked in retail, you've gone to Bali and taught our people. You've got your Profitable Traders program now. We're doing that small group stuff and the one-to-one stuff. And I think what I'd like to know from you is, in your view, what's the key to successfully mentoring people at the different levels?
Oh, that's a great question. The person I'm mentoring. Does that answer the question? Probably not.
Okay, it does, but not enough. Yeah, I think it does answer the question, but I think.
So how about if I rephrase the response? I think you've got to be pretty determined in this business. You will be successful. Look, Paul, you guys run an amazing educational program, simply amazing. I think one of the best gold standard programs out there, right? And the amount of help that people get is phenomenal, literally phenomenal, especially compared to anything that I've experienced in the past, right? So the issue in my mind is, look, it's all there. You can do it. You can be successful. I often like to try and pose the question back and say, what's holding you back, to all the traders who I talk to? So where's your pain point? What's going to change the way that you do things to make you more successful today, tomorrow? And it's not just, I'll put in more hard work. Okay, yeah, I get that. But trading isn't about that, right? This is an art as well as a science. There are some people who love systematic trading, and they'll live in this systematic space of, I want to do, and we'll be speaking to Lloyd over the weekend. He loves systematic trading. And he he needs that separation and that divorce away from the discretionary element of trading, right? He needs to have something to fall back on as a little bit of a crutch to really improve his trading. And there's no harm in that. I traded systems for years and years and years and was really successful doing it. So I've got a lot of time for that. In the end, I moved away from that because it didn't quite fit my personality. But if you like that sort of thing, that's great. And then there's the other side, right? The extreme case of people who say, right, I trade ABC, right? That's what I do. But I'm only going to do it when I want to do it, right? So as far as I'm concerned, if the market's going up or it hits my methodology, my vague methodology that I have, then that's what I do. right? And I could do it on Tuesday, but if I don't want to do it on Thursday, I won't bother. And that way they have I call those the discretionary traders, right? Even discretionary traders have a methodology, right? You know, it's nuts to say that people just suddenly look at a chart and go, I'm going to buy it. That doesn't happen. They have a method, right? But it's how they apply it that changes things. So, you know, you've got that broad spectrum of where people sit. And you know, the challenge we all have is to find out where we occupy that space, right? The difficulty about any education program, which because you're trying to reach so many people, is you can't narrow it down to a particular program for you. So sort of what I try and do is I try and help people find their pain points. Some people can't pull the trigger, right? They sort of freeze up when it's time to trade. Some people can't do the analysis because they don't really understand enough about the markets or feel confident they've got enough about the markets. And there's a whole bunch of people, I mean, like literally a whole bunch of people at the other end they understand the market, they get the trading itself, but can they manage their account? Can they right? And they don't know how to manage the account properly. So they'll have 6 positions on in 6 different currencies without realizing it's all one big US dollar position. So that when it reverses, they end up not quite blowing up the account, but they end up having a big drawdown, right? Well, that's a risk decision, right? That's more math and science, right? It's not about artistic. That's about learning how to manage risk, learning about how to manage your account, learning how to trade your account, right? All of those things, right? Lots of people have a lot of work to do in that area because it's complicated. Personally, that's where I'd start trading if I had to educate somebody, because it's really dry and really boring and it might put people off. And then you get through to the really exciting bits, which is when you're actually taking the trades and trying to identify the markets, which is the fun stuff. But you've really got to understand all of that stuff about account management, because without that, you don't, you know, it's like there's a missing piece, right?
Yeah, look, I really like that, Julian. It's one of the things people used to ask me how I survived coaching international under cricket for so long. And the answer is really simple. I looked at a team, I worked out what they needed, and then I went away and became good at that. And what I didn't do was just try and stick my approach on every team that I got, because that was never ever going to work. You know, it's just not the way that life goes. So this ability to sort of match it to the thing, I think is pretty cool, mate. Okay, so we talked about your broadcast group. We put the link in. 6 people get to click on the link, and they've got to take the monthly option. You've got to take the monthly option. If you have any problems, just let Mai know, and she will give you a hand with that. Great, got it. Helen's got it there. Great. So when it comes to mentoring, Julian, do you have is it different for you teaching a beginner versus teaching a pro?
Totally.
What are the differences?
The difference is that with a beginner, it's a clean sheet of paper. So actually, good and bad, right? So with a beginner, you can help them out with what the main things are that they need to look at without trying to be too specific about what suits their personality, and let them go and find it. With somebody who's been doing it a while, they come with hang-ups. You know, I can't pull the trigger. I'm taking too much risk. I'm not taking enough risk. I don't understand what's happening in the market. You know, the market hates me. The market loves me. You know, am I too emotionally involved? My wife hates me. My husband hates me because I'm trading too much, you know, and you end up dealing with a whole series of very valid and an interesting, if you like, peripheral and sometimes core, but mostly peripheral reasons as to why people can't need some help. Right now, that's not, you know, these days, come on guys, you know, we're all pretty grown up. You know, being able to reach out to somebody is a way of turbocharging your success, right? I think it's pretty much accepted that coaches around the world add value, and that's really what this is about. It's about identifying the weaknesses and adding value. But I think for the more experienced traders, it's harder to change because you've already coming into it you know, loaded up. You know, the gun's a little loaded already, right? Just maybe not with the right bullets.
Cheers, mate. I'm just going to jump out of there. Cheers, mate. So look, that's thank you very much for that. I think one of the things that does fascinate me is that how we get to different people require different things, and how we do get to move them. Do you enjoy the one-to-one stuff, the small group stuff? Do you enjoy the bigger group stuff?
Hey, look, at this stage of my trading career, Paul, I enjoy it all. I'm really happy to give something back to people. And I mean that genuinely. You know, look, the things I talk about, the things that I work on, I don't think there's secrets out there that you go, oh, cool, yeah, he's disclosing something there that I think's really pretty interesting. It's not really about that. It's about helping people, and if I can help people to become better traders, and that's awesome. Seriously, I mean it that way. It's for me, it's fun, and it also, actually, for the record, helps me reinforce what I'm doing as well too. Because often in our groups, we end up going through current markets, and that often helps my analysis as well too about what's happening.
Cheers, mate. Look, sorry, mate, I've got a couple of things going on here. I'm trying to get us off the off my sharing of the thing. I might bring a chart up for a little while as a background to this. Okay, mate. So let's talk a little bit about some of the stuff you're doing in the next month. So we've got the Trader Cafe. You're interviewing a different trader each week. Who do you have?
Really excited about that.
Period?
Really excited about that. So we had Ash on a couple of weeks ago, and we've got Lloyd coming up after that. And really, look, from my perspective, there may be. I think I haven't asked her yet, so it's a bit awkward. But I'd like Alexis to be our third one. So if you're listening, Alexis, this is me asking you now. Otherwise, you'll get a text from me later on. And I'd also like to get on some people who actually run the markets as well too. So there's a couple of guys out there who I think are quite interesting personalities who could come in and talk about how they look at the world. So not necessarily traders, but these guys are the allocators and how they think about things. Does that put a different perspective on things? With all of this stuff, right? What we're trying to do is to find out where people's journeys are and what they've been up to and how they can contribute to your success, right? Because that's what, at the end of the day, this is what it's about. Everybody has a different start and a different midpoint, and hopefully nobody's near the finish line yet. So this is about learning. It's about finding out what's going on out there. And it can even be something simple where, we may, I think at some point, get an economist on to explain to us probably once and for all what MMT actually really means and what it can do. I still fail to understand it completely. And I thought I knew most of the things about economics. Every time it seems to be explained to me, I have more questions than answers. So, that would be... that would be, yes. I'm not sure that governments don't either. It's like, what a great excuse to spend more money. Everybody likes that.
Yeah.
So,
that's a brilliant theory. Honestly, it's like one of those theories you listen and go, that's fantastic. That'll never work.
Exactly. It's like having an Amex Platinum card with no limit and you never have to pay it back. So,
yeah.
Awesome.
Right, Chris was asking if you can get Larry Williams on at some stage.
I think he's retired. He retired at the beginning of this year. He does I think he's in YouTube once or twice. I've seen him once, I think, in the last 6 months.
Is he actually,
but he's
retired to Singapore, guys? Has Larry gone to Singapore? Is it Larry Williams that's moved into Singapore, been there for a few years now?
No, I know who you're thinking of. He was the guy that worked with George Soros, and names escape me. He retired to Singapore. Well, he didn't retire to Singapore, but he's living in Singapore because he wanted to be in Asia. Jimmy Rogers is who you're thinking of.
Jimmy Rogers, yes, that is right, mate. Look, if people want to watch you interview Lloyd and other traders, they can join the Trader Cafe. Now they can watch on YouTube, they can watch on Facebook, they can log into the Zoom where it's probably easier to interact and ask questions. I'll have put the link for Trader Cafe registration in the group as well. So if people do want to listen to this stuff, and it's going to be this week's Lloyd, next week looks like it'll be Alexis, and then that's on Sunday nights around. It'll be it's a bit later this week, the next 2 weeks while we do 4:45. The next 2 weeks while we do Crypto Moon with Shukri. I think after that it stays at 4:45 because we've got daylight savings changing in New Zealand, so it comes back to a 4-hour gap for us. So I think it's 4:45 ongoing. So we've got Lloyd this Sunday, Alexis the next Sunday. In between the week after that, you're doing something with the staff, back to Trader Cafe. And then you're going to do a session with Actions to Wealth clients where we're going to talk about markets and we're going to give them some mentoring. If you are, this won't be on YouTube. This won't be on Facebook. This is exclusively for our people, right?
Oh, hey, look, that's the one I'm most excited about because what a great opportunity for people to come on and ask any question they want about trading. Now, I don't think I'm an encyclopedia, but we can have a bit of fun bumbling our way through the answers for some of those things. Some of them I have a lot of firm views on, others not so, but it'll be a great opportunity. Look, guys, I'm a price action guy. So if you don't understand charts or you want more information about charts, come along to that session and ask me questions about why engulfing bars are so important. And for the record, guys, some of you may know this answer already. Look, outside bars, what is the percentage of time on a chart when you look at any particular chart where you have outside bars? How often do they occur? That is a key piece of information, right? So should we talk about that? Should we do the answer now, Paul, or should we save it?
6% of the time, Julian.
Okay. Interestingly, they're a bit like London buses. When they turn up, they often turn up in a whole bunch and then go away again for a while. Usually that means that there's a sign of volatility or there's a sign of change coming in the market, notwithstanding any of their features, which are quite exciting. But that's really interesting. Now, the reason why it's 6, 7, 8%, who cares what the numbers are, right? It's less than 10. The reason why that's important is because the opposite way, right? So the chances of there being an engulfing bar at 6% the chance of there not being an engulfing bar is 94%. Now, if a doctor came to you and said, hey, Mr. XXX or Mrs. XXX, we're going to do this operation, the chances of success of 94%, would you take that? You'd be a bit crazy not to, right? So isn't that important information just to start off with? If nothing else, right? Now you know that the chances of you having a ring high formation or ring low formation being blown out because you have an engulfing bar or an outside bar, depending on what you call it, is 94% that it won't happen. Now, already you have a piece of information, right? Already you have something that's valuable. We haven't done any work yet, but you've already got a piece of information that's valuable. And this is the type of thing that I like to look at and like to try and analyze, because it's just so important. And when you get down to this stuff, you realize that trading price action at the end of the day, it's been the same now, I'm really sorry to say, for about 6,000 years. They didn't really have charts, certainly not on MT4 back in 2400 BC. But I'm pretty sure the Greeks and the Aztecs were pretty smart guys, and they had some kind of way of measuring prices. So all of these things make perfect sense when you sit down and work it through, but you've got to sit down and work it through. And then life becomes a lot easier because you understand what's going on. And then you learn to trade, false breakouts, you learn to trade breakouts. All of a sudden you've got a complete toolkit about what's going on in the market and how to manage risk at the time.
Mate, you asked me earlier today if the session was going to take 20 minutes, and I said, no, it'll be an hour. And I said, don't worry, mate, we'll check up an hour without a problem. It'll be gone before you know it. And we are racing up the hour mark very easily. Mate, look, I'm really enjoying it. I want to do a couple of things with you. I've got a bit of a question for you. So we've seen your record trading on, the broadcast group, which is, fusion products, IFS products, the simple stuff. Do you trade stuff outside of spot forex and the stuff you can get on MT4?
Yes, I do. So I have a couple of platforms. One platform that I've been using, which I use to do back testing with and some analytical work with. So my trades, most of them are placed on MT4, which actually these days with more than 1 or 2 accounts makes it quite entertaining. Whenever I actually want to do something, I feel like I'm trading it 5 or 6 times. But the actual analytical work, a lot of it goes on away from MT4 because I just like to prepare a little bit more detailed work for my conditionality tests that I have.
So if you trade coffee?
Yes, I do trade. Trade is a loose description.
You hold coffee a little bit.
So just to actually poo-poo my initial comments that I made, I have owned a coffee position now for the best part of 18 months. Weirdly, some days I get a bee in my bonnet about something, and coffee happens to be the latest kid on the block. I've very few times in my life I sort of go, okay, well, that's ridiculous value. So coffee is sort of not quite ridiculous value, but it's been pretty cheap for a while. Anything, if you look at the CME, anything below $100, it's crazy because the cost of production is about 125, and that's roughly still where we're sitting now. At some point, the weather will mean that there'll be a frost somewhere, and already all the small farmers in the coffee fields are already converting back to avocados, right? At the same time as Chinese demand's going up at 10% a year. Admittedly reasonable base, base, not a low base, but a reasonable base, but that's going completely nuts. So, you know, when you look at things like that, the demand supply fundamentals are completely out of whack, and one day that'll come home, and it'll be good fun. I think coffee's going to over 250 on the, I think it's the CME it trades on. Currently it's trading about 130. So I'm a little bit stubborn, and I've tried to keep that long position. I've been in and out of it about 5 times, but I just want to try and stay long.
Mate, you do futures and options as well, right?
Absolutely. Professionally, I've always traded options since about 2000. Privately, I think it's quite hard. You need to be a little bit sophisticated and have access to those type of instruments. They are weapons of mass destruction, and they can be amazing, and they can also be very dangerous. So it's one of those type of instruments whereby it's you have to know what you're doing. And these days I don't buy many outright options, so calls and puts. I normally buy strategies around those, and also try and buy or sell volatility as well too. So it's a little bit more sophisticated trading from a professional standpoint, but it's always been quite good to me, those markets.
If people want to learn this stuff from you, is the way they can learn this stuff from you. If they want to get more advanced stuff in past forex and learn about some of the other stuff that you do, how do they learn that from you?
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Now that is, I don't know if that's if that's you prodding me again. I think it probably is. So Paul has been prodding me, folks, for a little while to do a futures and also look at the options as well too. Some strategies around trading options. I know there's a couple of guys in the teaching crew that does that. Some of the couple do it already, but the futures side of things is very interesting because you have more leverage, and therefore it's a little bit more sexy than trading an outright stock. So you can trade our options on those stocks as well too, again with slightly more insane leverage than which makes it all very exciting. But don't forget, with insane leverage comes risks, right? So you can lose a lot of money doing that as well too. So my advice is, yes, I will be looking at that. Yes, Paul wants me to write a couple of programs on that, and yes, I've got that on my list of things to do, Paul. So watch this space.
Mate,
hey, can I answer that question?
About the Professional Traders Program, mate. So the Professional Traders Program is a program running inside Action Trust and Online Trading Profit. And how's it work?
Yeah, look, this is like you get me as a personal mentor, I guess is the best description. It's a program which is open-ended. You come in, you stay as long as you want, you go whenever you want. There's no pressure. I think it's a 1 month notice type of thing. And what it is an opportunity to every weekend, we sit down and we go through the markets as a very small group. I've limited it to 4, possibly 5 on occasion, but mostly 4 or 3 people, because what I want to do with that is to really accelerate those traders' development, right? It's a very specific program where we sit down and we go through particular markets, particular things that have happened, particular things we think are going to happen, and we try and analyze what's going to go on in the market and where the opportunities are to really reinforce the trading, not just the trading element, but the market setup and the account management element as well too. So yeah, look, it's a more in-depth thing, and I'm not. From my perspective, it's something that we originally had planned to do sort of seasonally. We do it for a few months and then take a few months break and then come back to it. But we sort of kept going with things. It's been a little bit of demand. We kept going with it. I'd like to think that some of the testimonials probably have been quite good. Paul, you can maybe speak to that a little bit more than I can. People are very sweet when they talk to me, but the real opinions come when you give the feedback in the survey. And I feel that it's a great opportunity for people who really want to accelerate their trading to the point at which, if you're break even, this will get you to make money. No promises, but I would be surprised if that didn't happen. And if you're struggling to make money, then we can sort that out fairly quickly.
So, Julian, the Professional Traders Program, you get an hour with you in a group of 4 to 5 people every week, and then you get an hour with you one-to-one every month.
That's correct, Paul.
Wow, look, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to give people a chance to test that as well. We're going to get Mai to put another link in there. And again, if you sign up to that, guys, you'll get 1 week free of that. You'll get a chance to join in. And look, this is a 5-person program, 4 to 5 people max. And what you will do if you I think this is going to give you 1 week, and we won't be able to fit you all in the first week. So we'll just bounce any payments back to you. We'll stop the payments until we get you through, and you can try it if you want to try it. we would like people who want to try it. But to do this, when we say we have a free week, you've got to turn up and do that week because, this is a program where we have 4 to 5 people out of the entire company. Most of them stay for 4 or 5 months. So opportunities to get this are reasonably slim. We do have a couple at the moment. So do jump in and click on that link if you want to give that a try. You can have a week for free on that. And if you sign up for the week and we can't do it in the first week, we'll just cancel and you can do it closer to it where you get your free week and come through.
Have you told them the kicker yet? So I believe that we may be switching times. So we were set up for 2:30 on a Sunday afternoon, but we may be moving that now to 6 a.m. on a Monday morning. So investment banking hours, guys. The reason why that is because we'd like to try and catch the open of Singapore time, sort of Central Asian time, which is actually quite a key opportunity to trade. So if you like, we've got the gap over the weekend and where that's going to finally open up. So that could be quite interesting, and we'll see how that works. But I'm sure you guys just once a week. It's only Monday morning when you're getting geared up for, often you're getting geared up for work on a Monday. What a great opportunity to start the day with a bit of exercise, but this one will be mental in the markets.
That sounds great. And look, I was just, Paul, did you cover national? Look, I'm going to see if we can get through a few questions, but we're well over time. Look, if you click and you want to try the Professional Traders Program, you get a week free. If what happens is that in the first week we can't get you in, then we'll just cancel it until you get your week free. And then if you want to subscribe, you can subscribe. I don't want you to not get your week free and have to pay, and that's how it'll work if we don't get you in the first week. We will try and get you in the first week, but obviously numbers are on one-to-one time and one to small group time with Julian are very, very, very hard to get. Look,
okay, so why don't we go through? Yeah, why don't we go through these questions, right? Give me a
couple of minutes on the questions. I've got 2 questions for them first, Julian.
Okay,
Here's what I want to know from you guys. We're about to do a prize draw. Somebody is going to win a week free of Julian's Professional Traders Program. Before we do it, guys, here's what I'd like to hear from you guys. I'd like to hear 2 things. Who would you like him to interview? Put it in the box for us, please. Let us know if you had a choice on who Julian could interview in the Trader Cafe. And look, we brought this concept of the Trader Cafe from the Bali Trading Retreat. We've done it for the last 2 or 3 Bali Trading Retreats. Who would you like to have Julian interview in his show? Do you want to have Ash back? Do you want to have Ainsley in? Do you want to have Gordon in? Do you want to have Leon in? Do you want to have Alexis in? Do you want to have Linker in? Do you want to see if we can find Jake Bernstein? Who do you want? Let us know who you want, and we will have a look at your suggestions for. Fantastic. Cover to everybody. You can't do everybody at the same time. Some great artists coming in here. Paul Hardin, Ashen Shukri. Let us know who you'd like him to do, and we will see if we can get those people onto his show. Could we get PH? A couple of votes for PH. You guys would like PH, and we will. Jeff would be great. PH, fantastic. So let us know. And the other thing I'd like to know from you guys is Chloe. Yeah, that's fantastic, Simon. Chloe due back on the 1st of April. Young Max is progressing very well, and we're expecting her back in the 1st of April. I was speaking to her yesterday. Very much looking forward to having Chloe back in the team, possibly with Max hanging around while she does it. Next
so if it's Paul or if it's Ash, next time around, I'm going to get them to play something on their guitar.
Yeah, it'd be nice, wouldn't it? It'd be nice to have Paul do a little bit of stuff, play a bit of music, and Ash play a bit of music. Ash, really, if you get a chance, Julian, you want to get Ash on the piano. He can play most things, but he's pretty special on the piano.
Well, there we go. Can you do the Gambler without words? I think you can do that. We all know that. We all know that tune, don't we?
Yeah. Look, he can do that. Thanks, John. Leon, the man that was man that was part blind. Michael Bourne was the man that was part blind. Who was Michael Bourne? 80. I don't know if you've met him, Julian. Michael Bourne. You met him in Bali. 80% blind, not allowed to drive, millionaire trader. Pretty special guy.
It's not a handicap. I have met I've met a gentleman who worked for JP Morgan for many years who was completely blind, and the speed at which he was able to, he had a ticker tape. He had headphones and a ticker tape, and the speed that he was able to interpret data was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah, Guys can do some pretty special stuff, eh? So Paul L's come in. He wants Jeff. Look, we'll take a note of these things. We'll get them to Julian. My next question for you guys, this is a bit harder, right? If you were on the professional traders program with Julian, would you rather do Sunday afternoon or Monday morning? So Monday morning would be, is it an hour? It's an hour, isn't it?
Well, I say it's an hour, but if we don't know, I don't think I've ever kept to an hour, funnily enough, Paul.
Yeah. So Monday morning, 6 o'clock, or would you rather do Sunday afternoon? Got a couple for Sunday, got a couple for Monday. Let us know, because I think this is quite interesting. Look, I've got to say, from a trading point of view, Monday's far easier, and Sunday's just whether that middle of the afternoon works. Let us know if you were going to do that. What would you prefer? Would you prefer Sunday afternoon, or would you prefer Monday morning? Yeah, I get that. A couple. If you're coming in now for Monday, saying they just like to have the Sunday free, and look, I think that's kind of cool. And look, one of the things that is coming, and it's a really good point, Joe. And I think that one of the things that I've lived in Singapore, but I didn't live and work in an office job in Singapore, and we're trying to get in at 6 so people can listen to it on the bus at 6:37 if they need to. But you're saying that you're on the bus and already moving to work before at around 6 o'clock in the morning. Look, one of the things that will be happening from this week, actually, which will be really interesting, I think I'm really looking forward to it, is that the Sunday market analysis. One of the issues we have with it is we do it around 5 o'clock Sing, because that's 10 o'clock New Zealand on a Sunday night. And for Julian and myself, being out much later than that on a Sunday night can be quite tough. We are going to start cutting that up. That's okay, Helen. No, just listen to Andrew for a little while. It's absolutely no problem at all, So on
Paul,
Sundays after the show we're all in, we're going to cut it up and we're going to rerun them in small sections, so you can just listen to Julian, or just listen to Ash, or just listen to Alexis, or just listen to Ainsley, or just listen to Shukri. So you don't have to listen to the whole show on Sunday afternoons, and you can watch it back on YouTube in 5 minutes later in the evening if you want to, without having to hunt through the show to get everything in D.
Paul, if I can have an intervention here, for those of you that are following me on the broadcast group, the dollar Swiss trade, we're going to have TP2 in just a minute. I haven't given you the TP2, but it's going to be around the 77, 78 mark in that Swissy trade. So just bear that in mind. That's been working out. We took that trade, I think, today, and yesterday or today. I can't remember when we were. God, crazy times all blending in these days. But that's managed to work out for us, I think, and we'll looks like we're on our way, hopefully, to TP2 in that one, which will get us out of the danger zone, and we'll have a free trade, a free ride at break-even stop on the balance.
Cheers, mate. Nice to have another winner. We'll get that winning ratio for March back up with the rest of the May. Look, we are can add timestamps to Sunday's show notes. Crystal, explain that to me a little bit more if you can.
I know what Crystal's asking there. That's a little bit more sophisticated on the about how you cut up a video. So I think I'll shortcut this answer for you, Paul, and say that's probably not going to happen, but it's something that you probably will look at eventually. But it's quite a sophisticated thing to do.
Cool. Crystal, feel free to drop me an email on that if you need to as well. Rightio, look, here's what we're going to do. We are already nearly 20 minutes over time. I know we've got a few questions and comments to try and get back to. But before we do that, we're going to do the prize draw, because you've got to be in the room to win the prize. The winner of today's lucky draw gets 1 week with Julian on the Professional Traders program. That is the prize. In fact, I'll tell you what, we'll give him 2 weeks, say, Julian. The winner of this gets 2 weeks on the Professional Traders program with Julian, coming along and spending an hour in that group and learning all that stuff. Mike, can we do our prize draw, please? Remember the rules, guys. You've got to be in the room to win the prize draw. So here comes Mai with the wheel of names. Here we go. Gary, you are the winner, and Mai will hand your details. First of all, we need to make sure you're in the room. Gary, if you're in the room, can you just tell us that you are in the room? Can you just let us know that you're here, Gary? Just type in and say yes, and Going to give you another 10 seconds, Gary, to confirm. Oh, there he is. He's confirmed that he's here. We have a winner, Gary. You'll get 2 Sundays with, or 2 Mondays with Julian. I'll hand that on to James, and we will get in touch with you the next couple of days to get that sorted out. Julian, it is 1:20 in the morning, New Zealand time. How long have you got for answering questions?
I'll tell you what, let's just, we'll rapid fire what we've got on the chat. Hey, just broadcast group. No, I don't post the reasonings for my trades on the broadcast group. There's a very specific reason for that, is because people are looking for the trades. You want to find out the rationale for me and for the trades I do, then come along to the trading program. What's the Widowmaker, Helen? I didn't know that there were many Widowmakers apart from a Russian submarine. So
the answer to that is Crystal didn't win again. Crystal, you've won a few times. You've been won off a lot of times as well, Crystal. You'll win again, not too far away. I appreciate the fact you turn up every week. John, what's the question about pound yen? So, interesting question. You're saying that someone asked if you could put your rationale for your
Nat Gas is the Widowmaker. Oh, come on, Helen. Nat Gas, right. 1 minute on Nat Gas, if I'm allowed, Paul.
Yep. No.
Okay. So the first thing you need to understand about Nat Gas is that the price is sort of interesting, but the real issue with Nat Gas is actually the combination of demand and supply. If there's ever a market where fundamentals matter, it's in the Nat Gas market. Now, 2 aspects to that. The first one on the supply side is the impact of the shale rollback program, right? So there isn't enough drilling going on in the shale for all the, we call it, so I think the market calls it tight oil. That means all that fracking that they do when they go sideways with the drill bits. One of the byproducts of that is natural gas. Used to be burned off, now is stored and used in power stations. So the lack of new wells that are going on mean that the amount of natural gas availability is going to fall over time. Now, combine that with cold winters, then you go, oh, okay, doesn't that mean that the thing spikes to crazy levels on occasions? Well, yes and no, because actually there's another big caveat to all of that, which is how much is in the storage tanks as well too, and there's a lot of storage tanks. So it's quite a complicated process, a 3 or 4 pronged process. If you want more information, look up a guy called Art Berman on the internet. He's a pretty good analyst, and he does some really fine work on that and gives you a reasonable steer about where nat gas is going. And by the way, I think there's a seasonal buy signal coming up in nat gas soon, if my memory serves me rightly. And I don't understand why it's the Widowmaker. Nat gas is pretty straightforward. It mostly goes down. Apart from when there's a real shortage, right? And it will go back up again, and it will go back up to about $12, but not for a while yet, I would imagine. So look at May will be a crucial time, because that's when the tight oil, the shale oil, starts actually has the maximum amount of loss of production this year before they start to invest again. And now the price is up, they'll be drilling again. Never underestimate how much the Texans can drill holes in the ground when you give them enough money. So
Berman, what was the guy's name? Matt Berman.
Art. Did
Berman.
I say Art Berman?
Yeah. Just while we're doing answers, Crystal, I think we can do what you want, actually. I think we'll be able to do both. I think when Mai does the Sunday analysis show, she can type into YouTube, into the comments, the times that the presenters swap over, so you'll have that. And then we will cut them up and separate them out as well. Look, one more thing before we do start to wind this up, and I do want to let Julian get some sleep. And look, even the team don't know this yet, but we are working away on a new program for Easter Saturday. We're going to, we've had a lot of people ask if they can get back into trading. We're going to teach the new Wave Rider, and we are working on a new way of teaching it, some trading personality stuff, some proven edge stuff, and we are also redesigning that strategy, and we are making considerable changes to it. So if you happen to be around for the third, I think we're going to charge sort of under $50 for just to cover a few of the costs, and we are going to relaunch the Wave Rider in that event, and it is going to be spectacularly different. Mate,
Oh, hey, there's another question on here, right? That Jira's asked: are the majority of successful traders aggressive but manage high risk, or are they conservative traders? Both is the short answer to that. This is down to personalities again. Some people like to play big and they're brilliant and they do really well. Other people like to play big and they do crap. And sometimes they're really great. So if you want to look at great conservative traders, go and look up Paul Tudor Jones and Louis Bacon, who are in the first book of Market Wizards. You could do a lot worse than read those two chapters in Market Wizards about how people manage risk and manage their account. They are awesome traders, and they're still, I think Louis Bacon's retired, but Paul Tudor Jones, we know, is still going now.
Mate, before anyone else asks more questions, I just want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your generosity. We are going to go nearly 30 minutes over. Appreciate it today. Always fantastic chatting trading with you. I do enjoy it.
Always happens.
It really does.
Don't mind. I'm already halfway to my underwear, Paul. So it's just me just slipping straight under the duvet, and everything will be sweet.
didn't need to know, but thank you, mate. We for those who want to spend a bit more time listening to Julian, he will be on Sundays at I think it's 5:45, 4:45 for the next couple of weeks with Trader Cafe. He's back on the and then fortnightly from the 28th. He's back on the 18th in an Actions to Wealth Online Trading Profit graduate session. He's doing some work with the trading team in the meantime. You've always got the broadcast group to join if you want. I went to do the professional traders program. The reviews on that for the people involved that have been fantastic. And if you have any questions about it, just let us know. Mate, thank you very much. To those of you that joined us tonight, thank you very much. We appreciate your continued support. To whoever made that microphone, we give them no thank you at all.
Microsoft. It's Microsoft.
You can see me here, right? No mic, no headset, no microphone. These things, I've got a laptop in front of me. I think that works just fine. Cheers, mate. And I've got to say, mate, really enjoyed the trading this year. You seem to be on a really nice run at the moment. Long may it last. And thanks for coming in. I really do appreciate it. And I'm sure those who are listening have learned a lot. Cheers, mate. Thank you. See you, everybody.